This is me standing on my 50th summit of 2023. You'd think I'd feel pretty accomplished, right? Well, to be honest, I didn't really feel a sense of pride. I was really stoked because, of course, I was standing on a mountain, it was sunrise, the view was absolutely spectacular, and I also had cookie cake along for the ride. Basically, a perfect morning in my book. But beyond that, I felt really surprisingly neutral about the entire thing. Now, I don't mean to imply in any sort of way that climbing and hiking 50 peaks a year is something small. It's definitely not. There were so many days to get in my time on the trail that I had to wake up at 2 a.m. so that I could get a pre-work tour in, or I'd be out until after midnight coming down from a mountain only to get up at 5 the next day because I had to work. It was a lot. And not only that, just the amount of time that it took to plan these tours made me want to pull my hair out. I will say that's probably on me just because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in these sorts of things. I always want to be getting like the best of the best, which I mean, all mountains are wonderful. Let's be real. Then add in on top of that the physical element. There is like, which I would say for a lot of people is probably actually, yes, the time, the planning, all these other things, but physically, climbing 50 peaks does a number on your body. So why, after all of this, did I feel surprisingly neutral? Well, there's something else you should know. This was actually my 4th year in a row of climbing 50 peaks. And to tell you that story, we need to go back about 4 years, specifically to April 2020. And as soon as I say that, I'm pretty sure that people are like, oh no, because spring of 2020 conjures up all kinds of different feelings for a lot of people, and with good reason. So at the time, my husband and I had been living and working in Germany for just a few months. And then everything shut down. We were living in a small mountain town at the time, and we had literally hundreds of trails out our back door. As you can see, I mean, I'm standing in said town right now. The view's spectacular. We have so many mountains to climb. With reduced working schedules and, as I've said, a lot more free time on our hands, which I think everyone had, we did what we like to do best, which is we went out and we went hiking. And we started going fairly hard, at least fairly hard on for my level at the time. And so we were regularly going out in the spring, like 4 or 5 nights a week and doing summits. And somewhere in those first couple of months, I just remember coming down from a hike one night and saying, hey, we should try and do 50 summits this year. And that's how the 50 Peaks Project was born. In the coming months, we continued to get out, keep hiking, and then as travel restrictions began to loosen up, we'd also pop on over 20 minutes to Austria and go hiking. We would drive a couple hours to the Dolomites, or we'd just drive over to Switzerland. Everything is so close where we live. And in November of 2020, we finished out our 50 Peaks project. We were with 3 of our closest friends, and we did a sunrise ridge tour with 5 different peaks along the way. And at the final one, number 50, we shared cookies, drank apple shorla, which is my beverage of choice, basically, which is just apple juice and sparkling water mixed. Doesn't sound that great. It's really, really freaking good though. If you haven't tried it, do try it. Anyways, finished out our 50 peaks with these friends, and I felt on top of the world. The experience was amazing, and it was hard to believe that we had done this thing. After finishing out our first 50 peaks in 2020, I was hooked. I wanted to keep doing that. Truly, the feeling is like nothing else I can describe, honestly. And so in 2021, I decided I was going to do it again, and my husband said he would do it with me. And so that's what we did. And then in 2022, we also did it again. And while we definitely had some more challenges in 2021 and in 2022 because we had moved a couple of times, we weren't living in the mountains, and we also had visa struggles and all these other things going on, we made it work. After 2020 and 2021, my husband kind of dropped off of that. He was like, I don't really care, like, this is great, but I'm just happy to go out and hiking. Me, being a very numbers-oriented person, I was like, I gotta do my 50 summits. I need to like keep the streak going. And so I didn't stop. Naturally, when 2023 rolled around, of course, that's what we did. At this point, it was just kind of the expected outcome. To be honest though, that's the problem with the 50 Peaks project. What was started out as something that was intimidating and hard and scary became something that was easily achievable for me. And I want to say easily achievable with the caveat that yes, there was like a huge amount of time involved, but I'd already done it multiple years in a row at that point. I knew it was 100% within my capabilities to do, and that was it. No longer was the main challenge for me to be pushing myself. Instead, the 50 Peaks project turned into something where I was just checking off the box. And while I don't believe that there's anything inherently wrong with that, at the end of the day, it stopped serving its purpose for me. And in some ways, it actually held me back. Because if I had the option of doing a goal peak that seemed really hard and intimidating and I knew would take an entire day to do and would be technical and challenging, sometimes I would pass that up and instead go out and do something easy where I knew I could snag a couple of summits to add to my tally. There, I said it. Sometimes I went for the low hanging fruit. I did have like some degree of standards, but I could have been better. I definitely could have pushed myself. There were other times where I just passed up going on a hike because I knew that there wasn't going to be a summit involved. If I was going to be outside with the limited time I had, there had to be a summit. It was very rare that that wasn't the case for me. So what now? Well, to be honest, I'm not sure. Some people suggested that I go after 75 peaks or 100 peaks or some other ridiculous number, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing for me. I think the biggest issue with doing 50 peaks was that the risk and the challenge involved didn't grow as my own skills progressed in the mountains. And so I really want to take the time this next year to be focusing on that instead of the numbers. With that being said, I am also very much, as I've said, a numbers person, and I really like to check the boxes. So am I going to totally let go of a number? I don't know. I don't know if I'm actually capable of that, because I think even if I say I will, in reality, mentally, I don't know if I will. It's a journey. I'm really looking forward this next year to tackling more of the things that scare me. I have a few scrambles on my list, one of them being the Sonnenspitze in Austria, which has terrified me for literal years. And I'm probably capable of doing it, but I just haven't done it. My fear of heights has been holding me back. So I'm excited to do things like that. I'm also excited this year to plan some glacier mountaineering trips over in Switzerland. And while last year my husband and I took a course, I'm excited this year to like self-guide instead of going with a guide, and learn more about that and build up my mountaineering experience. In the meantime, I would love to hear your input. What do you suggest? Do you have things that have helped you overcome this? How would you handle it? Have you run into this experience yourself while setting goals for yourself in the mountains and doing the things that scare you and potentially setting yourself up for failure, quote unquote, to keep growing? I'd love to hear. And if you want to hear more stories about the mountains, living in the Alps, hiking, and perfectionism, feel free to follow along.